game. Now, Zach Taylor, head coach of the Bengals, has said that he wants Burrow and many of his starters to play more in the preseason because they've struggled to start the last several seasons. I mean, Burrow as a starter in weeks 1 and 2, overall 1-9. Last 2 years, 0-6, and they've dug themselves holes that we saw it last year. They look like they could have been a contender had they not started off so horribly. They've lost 6 straight in weeks 1 and 2. Can it make a difference if you do see more from Burrow and the starters in the preseason?
Absolutely. I love this decision from Zach Taylor. I go back to Tom Brady, the GOAT, right? When he was with the Patriots, everyone was kind of flabbergasted. Why is he playing in the preseason at all? Like, why is he taking any snaps? He knew the importance of getting off to a strong start. So I love this. You do develop that kind of hardness and toughness, and there's when you hit as much, specifically for the players that actually get tackled and do the tackling, but it's almost like a boxer. It's why they spar and they box against other guys as opposed to just shadow boxing, because that's all that the NFL players do in the preseason typically is they're not tackling full speed at all during practice. This is your one opportunity to get some live reps. So I love this because I do think you can get a leg up on all those teams that rest their starters, that don't let a lot of the starters play in the preseason. So I think this is a brilliant move and the right strategy to take. Now, there will be, I mean, if the worst thing happens in the world, I don't even like saying it out loud. People are going to lose their minds, but you could get hurt in a non-contact drill, you know, running routes or walking down the stairs. I mean, we've seen wild injuries. It is a physical game. I think you have to take that risk in order to get that strong start. So
we're going to see a bunch of starters. Not going to see Trey Hendrickson, though. He continues to hold in. And he was really the lone bright spot on that defense, really has been for the last couple of years. Let's assume he gets a deal done. Let's assume he plays for the Cincinnati Bengals. Is he enough to make you believe that this defense can be good enough to make them a real contender in the AFC?
Trey Hendrickson. He was there last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And they weren't a contender. Yeah,
right, exactly. So I don't know if
you don't think that defense is ready?
No, I don't think they've made enough moves because they've had to spend so much on their offensive weapons, which I would too, right? You don't want to let Jamar Chase and T. Higgins just walk off without taking care of those guys. They paid Joe Burrow, so they paid a lot on the offensive side of the ball. And the one piece that they did add in the draft, Shamar Stewart, I know it was a, polarizing, contract holdout that got a lot of attention, but he was also a player when he was in college that didn't produce a lot in the stat column. If you remember during the draft process, he was rising up the ranks because of the way he looked in workouts, right? He's tested off the charts, and he was insane at the combine. I still need to see that player produce. And even if he had produced in college, there's always that uncertainty. There's a learning curve that comes when you get to the NFL of being able to make that impact right away. The good news is, like, how much worse can you get? You would hope that continuity and bringing back some veterans and a guy like Trey Hendrickson can continue to improve. But I don't think this defense is going to be dramatically improved by any means.
So what's the ceiling for the Bengals then, if you don't think that defense is good enough to get them there?
I do think this is the thing, and I do believe Joe Burrow, he said this a couple years ago after the first Super Bowl loss when we just all thought they'd be right back there. As long as Joe Burrow's healthy, they'll be competitive in games. But you get really... you don't want to get in that game where you're trying to outscore everybody and your defense becomes such a liability. I don't think they even have to be a top half of the NFL defense, but if they can just be around that mid-tier, then they'll be fine because they will win a lot of games on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, they're taking on the Eagles to start off the preseason on Thursday. We showed you that comparison of Stewart to Myles Garrett. Also a comparison for an Eagle, a new Eagle, to a top pass rusher. Saquon Barkley is comparing Jahad Campbell to Micah Parsons, says he's built like Micah Parsons. How would you feel if you're a rookie coming in and maybe the star on your team is already comparing you to one of these stars of the NFL?
I would feel great, but I'd also be very cautious, right? I'd be like, oh, wait a second. You just set that bar so high for me as a rookie to come in and have the type of career already that Micah Parsons had, which is one of the fastest starts we've seen from a pass rusher. Also plays a different position, but I think just from a body type and the style of play is the similarity, right? I don't think anybody's predicting they'll get that type of production, but he is in a great position because the Eagles don't have to force him. Like we were just talking about Shamar Stewart, he has to play great in order for that Bengals defense to be good. you don't have to necessarily play great, and you have the luxury of being able to sprinkle him in different situations, kind of easing him into things in the Eagles' rotation so that he can excel one day. So I think they're in a great spot. He's got good veterans around him that are going to take him under his wing, and it does look like Howie Roseman has done it yet again by adding some critical pieces on a defense which lost so much.
They've also had to add some coaches as well to fill in the holes, because Kellen Moore, now the head coach with the Saints, and this is an incredible stat. Jalen Hurts, somehow it's his 10th straight season, or at least 10th season that he's had to deal with a new offensive coordinator. What do you think that Kevin Patullo is going to bring to this offense?
Our producer Noah hit me up with that stat. I was looking at CBSSports.com. It said 12 play callers since 2016. So I don't know who's right or wrong. So it possibly could be even a greater number. That might be one of the most impressive stats I've seen, considering the career that Jalen Hurts has had, right? And I do think the one thing that is good for him is that this is another situation. Last year wasn't the case, but you're elevating from within. So you're not having to deal with a lot of new terminology. He already has a relationship with Patullo, who was the pass game coordinator. I think they have a really good communication, but this is what I think makes Jalen Hurts special. You know, we've heard him talk about the process and the preparation and the work ethic. You've basically got an extension of the coach on the field. Like, Jalen Hurts knows this offense in and out. So that's an incredible luxury to have. And the fact that he's been so comfortable, that he takes such good care of the football, I think is where this shouldn't be that concerning for the Eagles.
I'm not sure if we're going to see many of those Eagles offensive stars in the preseason at all, especially in this first game against the Bengals. Producer Noah did want to hold your feet to the fire here with a month to go until our first NFL Sunday on CBS. Will the Eagles repeat?
Oh, this is easy. I'm a hard pass on the Eagles repeating. It's one of the hardest things to do in all of sports.
Actually, you know what's crazy? It's easier to go back-to-back in the Super Bowl than it is to go back-to-back in the NFC East, because you got to go back, I think it's 22 years to the last repeat winner of the division. We've had a couple repeat champions since then. The Patriots did it right around then. Chiefs did it a couple of years ago. But
I don't know if I would go out and say they don't win the NFC East again. Like, I think there probably is more of a likelihood they could repeat as division winners, considering some of the question marks. Washington could mount a pretty significant challenge. It's just, if you gave me them or all those other teams, I get 31 others, I'm taking the field every single time. So, like, I'm going to pick somebody else to win the Super Bowl. They'll be competitive again. They'll be right back in the mix. They have too good of a core nucleus on the offensive side of the ball. So I think they'll be back in the hunt, but I'm not picking them to repeat.
All right, Danny Kanell looking ahead to the season. And tomorrow, the first preseason games of the weekend kick off, and Bengals Eagles will highlight that.